Welcome into WFRV Plus Sports Night. Kyle Malzahn riding solo tonight, but we have a ton of things to get to. Over the weekend, if you were living under a rock and you haven't heard the post-game comments from Doug Gottlieb after Green Bay fell to Milwaukee on the road in the house of their rivals, 75-72, Doug Gottlieb had a crazy post-game press conference. Insane. You don't see coaches get that heated on the mic. Rarely. But he did have his Kevin Borseth moment almost 15, I think it was 15 years ago, almost to the day, that Kevin Borseth freaked out just like Gottlieb did, slamming on the podium. Let me give you some backtrack because I was in attendance at Panther Arena down there at UW-Milwaukee. And this is the first time I've talked on WFRV Plus, and of course on Sports Night about the whole day in general, right? It's a 2 o'clock tip time, so I leave Green Bay around 11 o'clock. Get there a little early. Never been. You never know with the traffic down there. And before I'm leaving the station, I'm like contemplating, like, should I bring my laptop? Should I not? I'm like, I'm going to be back before the 10 o'clock. And of course, Sports Extra, our 30-minute specialty programming on our air. I'll be back. I don't need my laptop. So I decided not to bring my laptop. First mistake. Get down to Milwaukee, everything's good. Everybody from UW-Milwaukee was fantastic in their athletic department, got me hooked up, got me set up. It was great. Game goes on. Green Bay's dominating. I think Green Bay, this is just off the top of my head, they led for 95% of that game. It had to be around there. They controlled that game. And for every punch Milwaukee threw, the Green Bay men had a response. Right? And so the game's going on, and all of a sudden, Doug Gottlieb gets teed up. And me behind the camera, I thought, for as fiery as Doug can be on the sidelines, you've been to a Green Bay men's basketball game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Doug can let the refs know one way or another. Doug can also let his players know one way or another. If you've been in attendance, you know what I'm talking about. But I thought, granted, my vision is through a camera lens, and I'm not focused always on Doug. I thought it was a pretty chill game for Doug. So I was a little shocked. I didn't know what he said. I do now, but I didn't know at the time. But that happened late in the second half. They were up 8 with 8 to go. He gets teed up. The momentum swings. Milwaukee takes the lead. Green Bay grabs it back. A few missed calls, bad calls, whatever you want to call it, happens, and Green Bay loses the game. And I've asked Doug before, and I never really think that I'll get a good response to what I, as a reporter and a journalist want out of Doug. But I've asked Doug post-game before in recent games this year, like when I think the officiating wasn't up to par, I'll ask him post-game and open up the floor if he has any grievances. And he usually doesn't. I mean, he paraphrasing most of the answers from Doug, it's always, they're going to miss a few calls here and there, but it's on us. We didn't finish the game. So obviously the technical played a big part in kind of the momentum swing. I mean, they hit both free throws and then they get the ball back. So they go on top eventually. So I get to the post-game press conference, and there's kind of like this uncertainty if I'm going to get Doug in the hallway outside of Green Bay's locker room or if he will be ready before Milwaukee's head coach Bart Lundy took the podium. And Doug Gottlieb storms in. He's like, "You rolling, Kyle? I think you'll love this." I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. And usually how I work in the media, doing one of these press conferences with Doug, or this could go for anybody, I always like to open the floor for the coach for like an opening statement if I'm able to do that, right? Unless somebody else asks the first question. But if I'm going to ask the first question, I would like the coach to let me know his thoughts first, because that will direct the conversation afterwards. Because if I open it up with a certain assumption or direction of questioning and he doesn't feel that certain way, well, we can just knock that out of the way with his opening statement. He's going to bang on a lot of those things. So I asked Doug, I said, "You want me to go first or do you want to open it up?" Because he came in pretty fiery. And this is what transpired. This is what transpired.
I need the league to explain to me why I got a technical foul when I did not curse, I was not demonstrative, I did not leave my box. All I said was, that's the same play as the other end, okay? All we ask is that there's a fair game. That's what we ask. Okay, CJ O'Hara goes and gets an offensive rebound. Their player dives at his legs. CJ gets called for a foul. I need Donnie at the league and the new commissioner to explain to me the disparity in the officiating. That's what I need explained to me. I got no problem with their team, their staff. They played hard. They did what they do. They play tough and they play aggressive. I need somebody to explain to me, okay, how just those two. There's others that I have massive issues with, okay? Others that have including every time we touched them, there was a foul in the second half. The last play of the game, just to get the ball, they're grabbing us and holding us. Okay, and I understand. If you're not calling that, that's fine. You had the exact same play at both ends in the last play of the game. The exact same play. The exact same play. So I need the new commissioner of the Horizon League to explain to me what a technical foul is when I don't leave the box, I don't curse, I'm not demonstrative. Okay, there was nothing that should have been called a technical foul. I know when I earned one. I did not earn one. Okay, and the CJ play, we're up 6 points. That dramatically changed the trajectory of the game. He's our best defender. He's one of our best players. He picked up his 4th foul, collecting an offensive rebound when a guy falls into his legs. Okay, all we ever ask is fair. Okay, and I'm not talking about 37-18 in free throw attempts. That's how they play. They shoot it and go get it. Fine, whatever. Okay, what I'm asking is 3 things. Okay, I'm asking how it's technical foul when I don't curse. Okay, when I wasn't demonstrative, because you're not allowed to point to the screen or mime something that's happening. Didn't do that. Didn't leave the coaching box. Wasn't on the floor. Those are all the things you get technical foul for. Not saying that's the same call at the other end. Okay, and CJ O'Hara collecting an offensive rebound, and what's the freshman? He's a good player. Steve Elam diving for the loose ball. Okay, and falling into his legs, and CJ O'Hara gets called for a foul. Okay, and then the last play of the game, which I'm willing to say, hey, our end, you don't want to call foul? All right, kind of drove into traffic, whatever. It's the exact same play as the other end. Could not be more similar. And yet every time they drove in there, it was a foul, and every time we did, it was mixed. It was mixed.
Did you get any explanation?
Nope. And King Whetstone called the technical foul. He avoided me the rest of the game. That's not right. Okay, I was not combative in any way. Okay, I did not curse one single time. I was not on the court one single time. I was not out of my box one single time. I was not on the court one single time. You tell me. Okay, that's all I'm asking. Anyway, what else? Good, thanks. Sorry I cursed.
Still makes me laugh, man. Doug's a character. The funniest part about that is he goes, I didn't swear, I wasn't demonstrative. Like 25 seconds later, he swears and he bangs on the desk, a little demonstrative. Nonetheless, very heated Doug Gottlieb. I had my story right there. Like, I had the story. I've never heard a coach that heated in that sense. And mind you, there's only 2 cameras in there. There's us from WFRV TV, Channel 5 in Green Bay, and there's a Milwaukee television station there. And I'm sitting there, and I said, I'm really kicking myself that I don't have a laptop right now, because this is going to catch some headlines. And there's been a ton of headlines in Doug Gottlieb's tenure, right? 4-28, longest losing streak in the nation last year. The nobody you comments that were taken out of context, but nonetheless, they dominated the headlines. Throwing the chair this year, benching the leading scorer in the country, leaving midweek his team to go down to the Super Bowl in Radio Row, this post-game outburst, stepping away from national radio. Like, the Doug Gottlieb tenure, we're not even 2 full years in, and it has been littered with storylines. And Doug's a polarizing dude. Whether you like him or you like him, you love him, you hate him, you despise him, however you feel about Doug Gottlieb, people pay attention. So as soon as this is going on, you got to think, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crashing out right now. He's crashing out. I had to get it up online. Burn it while the wick's still hot, they say. I don't even know if they say that. So I was really kicking myself I didn't have a laptop. But I did have a cell phone. I did have one of these. My background, Spider-Man. I did have one of those. So I recorded it off my cell phone on the camera, put it out. I'm sure you guys have seen it. He had a reason to be mad. He had a lot of reasons to be mad. The play he's talking about specifically, I mean, this isn't me being a homer or bias. It was a bad call on CJ O'Hara. You go back and watch the film, some of the officiating was pretty bad. But nonetheless, like, you still have to keep your cool a little bit in that sense. Now, do I like it as an objective reporter or just somebody in sports when a guy goes to bat for their team? Absolutely. But this caused what happened today. So a few days pass, and Doug Gottlieb is suspended. The Horizon League suspends him for one game, which is very crucial. Which we'll get into in a little bit. But let's hear from Doug Gottlieb. He took the podium today, and this was some of his first comments about the suspension being handed down by the Horizon League.
Disappointed in the league, but really thankful for Chancellor Mike and Josh having my back. Yesterday, there's a hearing, and there's one neutral body from the league who is on the Zoom. It's Josh and myself, and the interim commissioner, Chris, was kind of led the hearing, and then she circled back with Donnie, who's the coordinator of officials, and then last night, frankly, in all candor, we were told this was a probability. At which time I said, has she actually spoken with Donnie, because we do have some information, and I don't think that was her logic behind the suspension. And then Chris called me this morning. We had a good 5-minute talk, and it was set to be announced at said time.
So Doug Gottlieb suspended one game. He will serve that suspension on Friday against Oakland, the team that's a half game ahead of them in the standings. Now, what makes the insult to injury a little worse going back to Sunday is because Oakland had lost that game on Sunday. Oakland had lost earlier on Sunday. So if the Green Bay men were to had won that game against Milwaukee, they would have slid into second place, and with first place on the horizon, they would have been one game out or 1.5 games out of first place with 3 to play. Like, the Horizon League's crazy. Anything's feasible, right? But Green Bay digs themselves in this hole because they won, they would have been in second place, and that pretty much guarantees you, pretty much clinches you a home game for the conference tournament. And for Doug Gottlieb, let's go back to last year, 4-28. If he can host a conference tournament game, I know that's not the end all be all, but how dead in the water the program was last year, right? To hosting top 5 teams in the league host, and you're up on the upper echelon. I mean, we saw the first year, or the transition from year 1 to year 2 with Will Ryan and, of course, Sundance Wicks. But what Doug has done this year, especially coming off that win on ESPN2, where they beat Purdue Fort Wayne, handed it to them, and they've gotten great pub this year for a program that was littered with bad pub. So hosting a Horizon League tournament conference game, right, is huge for this program to where it was last year. The top 5 teams in the league do it. Green Bay right now, since they lost that game, they are currently tied for 3rd place. They are tied for 3rd place at 10-7 in the conference with Robert Morris. They're 2.5 back from the top spot. They would have to have a lot of things go right and a lot of things go wrong for not only Robert Morris, Oakland, and Wright State. The reality is that's probably not going to happen. So the focus now Had you won on Sunday, sure, that's still feasible. Things can happen, but it's not anymore. So now this team has to focus on getting a Horizon League Conference tournament game at home. Because you don't want to go on the road, especially when you've been on the upper echelon. You want to finish things out on your home court and get to Indianapolis, where obviously the other rounds after that are played. But Doug won't be in attendance on Sunday or on Friday, against Oakland. If they lose, I hate to play devil's advocate here. If this goes south, and Doug Gottlieb, after an incredible turnaround this year, and this goes south, and you add in the suspension, they lose against Oakland, right? They fall out of the top 5 spots to host, and they go on the road and lose. Like, there's going to be a lot of conversation. I don't think, obviously, in the athletic department, everybody's bought in. But, like, okay, there's going to be some accountability on the internet, right? Like, people are going to look back at this little blip, and if the season goes, people are going to go, oh. But I don't foresee that happening. It all happens against Oakland on Friday, where the Green Bay men are walking into an Oakland Grizzly home of the Grizzlies, where they have lost 3 in a row. So it's going to be Kerry Rupp. Kerry Rupp will be leading the charge for the Green Bay Phoenix, who's 71 years old, an assistant coach on the staff, really highly regarded after talking to Doug Gottlieb today about just his upbringing. Doug mentioned something. Let's actually go to this. Actually, I got the audio right here. Doug talks about Kerry Rupp, who will be the stand-in coach on Friday night's game on the road.
Everything that I lack, he has, right? I lack experience, and he has a million years. He remember, if people forget, he took over for Coach Majerus when Rick left Utah, and he took them to win the Mountain West Conference Tournament Championship. He's been a head coach in high school. He's been a head coach at Louisiana Tech in college. He's been an assistant at Detroit in this league a couple years ago. I mean, he's got a dearth of experience. I want to use that word today. I love that word, dearth of experience, that I don't think there's another assistant in the league has. So, yeah, I have full confidence in him. And we're totally lockstep within offense and, the same pecking order. And he's involved in defense. And he and Coach Ground and Coach Borseth, the 3 bald guys, they get together and talk ball like once a week. So he loves this. And honestly, like, I want to coach the game. I want to put us in good position. I thought last year, especially the second time we played them, we did a great job. We actually got them out of their zone. But I'm happy for him to get an opportunity because he's a stud, and we would not have gotten him if not for the relationship between him and my brother, and some of the other things that happened in the coaching world that caused him to be available. So I'm actually kind of fired up for Kerry Rupp because there hasn't been one game that we've gone to. So we've played 28 games, 15, 13, right? 28 games. And the 2 exhibitions, or with the exception of the Haskell game, because those guys didn't really, well, but I never forget, we're on the floor at Kansas, and Bill Self grabs me. He's like, "You got Rupp?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, hell of a guy." We played UMass, and Frank Martin couldn't believe that I got Kerry Rupp and Andy Ground to join me. So he's as well respected as any man in the profession. Does things the right way. He's an incredibly hard worker. He's also the best power lifter in our program. I don't know if anybody cares about that, but at 71 years old, it's pretty impressive. And I got him some new powerlifting Adidas shoes this week, so maybe that fires him up. But the Phoenix are in good hands.
So the Phoenix will be in good hands from Doug Gottlieb himself. I'm so intrigued to see how the rest of the season plays out. I am so intrigued. Because I go back to 2023 when adversity hit Green Bay's way. If you remember that one year of Sundance Wicks, what was that team predicated on? The great play from Noah Reynolds. He was out of the starting lineup at the end of the year, and that team obviously fell flat on their face. But in that year, Green Bay went on the road into Youngstown State. At Youngstown State, I think there were 7.5-point underdogs without Noah Reynolds, who was sick, and it was Preston Riedinger leading the charge and Foster Wonders hitting a game-winning shot. Like, that was a big deal for that team to battle that adversity and come out on the other side. And Green Bay has done that this year, which leads me to believe that this will just be a little blip in the road and everybody will be over it a week from today. Gonna be fun, man. Gonna be fun. We'll hear a little bit more from Doug on the other side, but let's take a break. Been going on too long. All right, you're watching WFRV Plus Sports Night. We'll see you on the other side, folks. Welcome back into WFRV Plus Sports Night. Nice day out in Green Bay. I know it was a little rainy, but man, I'll take this. It's like, what, 100-degree, like if you include the wind chill, swing from what we had just a month ago. Were as frigid as ever. Felt like for an eternity. Felt like an eternity. So if you've ever, going back to Doug Gottlieb a little bit, if you've ever been around Doug or have heard him talk in front of a mic, we all know the personality that he is on the radio. He quits the radio show, right? But what I really respect about Doug Gottlieb as the basketball coach is how transparent he is on the mic. And those two are obviously linked, but head coaches don't have to give you the insight and information to the extent he does when he talks to the media, right? We see it with Matt LaFleur all the time. I know it's at a professional level, but there are so many coach speak things that they want to keep in house, which is totally fair. The questions still need to be asked, and it's up to him to give us whatever type of answer he wants to give us. Like every single Friday we ask, is Josh Jacobs going to be questionable or is he off the injury report? Matt LaFleur always says, well, you'll see at 3:00. It's like, dude, it's 1:30. Just tell us, But that's not the case with Doug. And I think I really respect Doug for that, because as a reporter, all we want to do is bring you the information from the inside on what's actually happening. And that doesn't happen without people letting us in the program. And Doug has done a tremendous job on that. So I really respect Doug for that, because he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to go over the X's and O's, but it's well appreciated because the community deserves to know, right? The people that show up every single game and pay their hardworking money to be there. If they don't do well, fans deserve to know why they didn't do well. And I feel like when you open up a little bit more, for better, for worse, like people connect with you on a different level. And I think he's done a good job on that. But obviously, all of this whole suspension, the reason why I bring that up is because it happened in front of the camera and in front of one of these, the microphone, that I think he may have broken, but that's neither here or there. I'm just kidding. He didn't break the microphone, but it was pretty funny when he had to pick it up. I bring it to this moment because for as transparent as he is, he was asked earlier today, will that change moving forward now that you've been reprimanded by the league? Let's hear from Doug Gottlieb on that.
Like, I try to never accost a ref. I think the treatment of officials nationwide is disgraceful. And I don't want this to be this is who Gottlieb is. He's always complaining, bitching, and moaning about the officials. I don't, despite the fact I have a big platform and I have the ability to do so. There have been times when I've been upset, but if you ask the league, they'll tell you, I don't call. There are coaches that call after every single game. I've called after one other game other than that. And it's because of something that everybody, all the coaches in the league except for one, always talk about. And that was probably the more whining and complaining than anything else, but I don't do that. I don't curse at refs. I don't accost them. I don't point at them. I've done a better job of not pointing at the Jumbotron or whatever, the video boards, because that's being demonstrative. That's miming a play. You're not allowed to do that. I've learned that. I've learned the old semicircle walk you make during a timeout where you go out and you grab an official and you mumble something to them about, hey, keep an eye on this guy, could be on that. But if you ask them, and I've had several, like, I appreciate you being a gentleman, even though you knew that was, we messed up a call, right? That's what happened after Robert Morris, where it was a bad call. And I could have lost my mind, and I didn't. So the point is, I'm always going to be me, but I got to keep being a better version of me. And, you know, anything that you do to potentially hurt your team, because right now, like, you're an official calling our game Friday or Sunday, right? Like, I understand they're a tight fraternity. You know, I call them into question. Is there, if it's a 50-50 call, do we get it? Do we not get it? I'm putting officials in a bad position. I'm putting our team in a bad position. And that's the opposite of my job. My job is to put our team in the best possible position to win. And if they make the shots, we win. If they miss the shots, we lose. So I got to do a better job of that. But I'm always going to be me. I'm always going to be candid. But I'm also always going to treat officials with respect. The thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to talk about it to you guys on camera.
Doug is unapologetically himself, man. One of a kind character that man is. So it's going to be really interesting. It all starts on Friday, Green Bay against Oakland. You win there. You pretty much, I'm not saying you lock up, you know, home court advantage, but it's one step further to the path of getting there for the Phoenix. So going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Doug Gottlieb suspended. One game were his post-game comments on Milwaukee after Milwaukee's loss. All right, let's take a break and talk a little Packers on the other side. WFRV Plus Sports Night. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back into WFRV Plus Sports Night. Kyle Malzahn coming to you live from the WFRV Plus studio. Look, the Green Bay Packers, some huge news. Let's talk briefly about this. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but the Green Bay Packers and Rich Bisaccia, they are parting ways. Rich Bisaccia is stepping down. Now, you can look at it one way or another. I tend to believe, this is my gut with no inside information, that it was like one of those deals where Green Bay wasn't going to have him back, but they were going to let him go on his own terms. Because when you fire a head coach or let him go, it just looks bad on their reputation, right? So I think that was what happened. That's how I read it. All right, we're going to wrap things up. I'm just ranting a little bit. I didn't really come in here with any concrete thoughts. Hope I made it somewhat interesting on a news cycle day where Rich Bisaccia recently stepped down and, of course, Doug Gottlieb suspended for a game. But I had fun. All right, you guys take care. Thanks so much for watching WFRV Plus Sports Night. I'm Kyle Malzahn. As always, thanks for watching.